in order to be a good leader, you need to communicate, you need to have awesome process in place, and you need to have the right accountability in place. And if you're communicating the wrong thing, man, everything is wrong.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
What's up, podcaster? It's your host, Adam Adams, and Pete Mohr is joining us again. Otra vez. He is back. Episode 223. A long time ago. I don't know. It wasn't that long. But episode 223, we talked about business worries and how to turn them into wins. And today, Pete's got some ideas around accountability and offloading things to other people to make you more successful as a podcaster, but also as a business person. So if you want to check all of the background and everything for Pete, go to episode 223. We do a little bit more of the background there. This episode is going to be a bit shorter, and we're going to be talking about those 4 A's and how they are going to benefit you. And Pete, I'm going to start off with the most obvious question, because my name is Adam A. Adams. Could you not have moved this down to 2 A's or 3 A's just to make me feel better?
For sure, man. It's great to be back. Thanks so much for having me, Adam.
Yeah. Well, thank you for jumping in. Let's find out, what are the 4 A's and how do they serve the podcaster who's listening?
You know, I love frameworks, Adam. And I think this is the thing. I've got 5 P's and I've got 4 A's and I've got all these different things. But, you know, I do this kind of stuff so that I can remember how to roll through different trains of thoughts and thinking procedures that I've needed along the way. And, you know, when I look at the 4 A's, and this one's the 4 A's of accountability, and they are align it, address it, assess it, align it, and assign it. And assess it, address it, align it, and assign it. And when you're thinking of something, and, you know, most of the coaching that I do is around business owners, but it doesn't matter whether you're setting this in a podcast framework or setting it up for your business or whatever the case is. What we're doing here is we want to transfer accountability to someone else, because either we don't have time to do whatever it is that we are thinking about here as we're putting this framework into play, or we don't want to do it anymore. Both are reasonable reasons of aligning and assigning accountability to someone else. But in order to do that, we need to first you pick, Adam, something that a podcaster would want to hand off accountability on.
Honestly, there's too much, man.
I know.
There's too much. Because I would say, like, when podcasters lose, when they quit, when they fail, when they go to pod fade, it's for so many reasons. And I think it's because they're, like what you're talking about, is they're just wearing too many hats.
Exactly.
They've got this hat, they've got that hat. And so some of the most obvious ones, if we could just pick 2, is the marketing, because the marketing is kind of like a full-time job. When you hire our company to do the marketing, for example, it's several people's full-time job.
Exactly.
It's several people's full-time job. So the marketing is tough. If you want it to really work, you got to be adding fuel to the fire. So that's one thing that a podcaster might want to offload, is like, how do I grow my show, grow my audience without like doing all of the work and staying up until 3 a.m. doing it? And the other one might be editing, because that was my problem when I first started. I was trying to do all of my own editing. And when you go from like 1 episode a week to 3 episodes a week, you go from 12 hours a week to 36 hours a week just on editing the podcast. And it's like, for the listener, if they want to be successful, they don't have to spend 12 hours a week on 1 episode. They could spend 3 hours a week on 3 episodes and let somebody else do all the other stuff. So if there was 2 things that most people probably want to offload, it's the growth of the podcast and it's the hard stuff. It's the editing and post-production.
Yeah. So we'll just pick one. We'll pick editing and post-production.
Cool.
And so when you look at that, if we run the 4A model, assess it, address it, align it, and assign it. So assess it. Well, if you're assessing this and you have already just done that in your talk here and saying, hey, it's taking me 12 hours to do this. It's going through all of this stuff. And, some people might love that piece of their podcast because they have that background and that's the kind of thing they really like to do. That's okay for them. They might want to offload something else, but they might want to offload the marketing, for example, like we talked about. So we need to assess what we're good at personally, what's the best use of the time, and what I call the stuff that we want to either love it or leave it. And if you love it, do it if that's how you want to spend your time. If you want to leave it, here's the next thing, right? So we need to assess where that piece of the puzzle is in relation to the time and the money that it takes and all the other things, all the other pieces of the puzzle here. Now we need to address it. And we're going to address it and saying, addressing it sort of on a scale. If I want to have this professional, how much am I going to need to do? If I'm okay with lacking a little bit of the professional side of things and putting out something that's maybe not as good as, if I paid a professional to do it, or if I'm just going to literally record a conversation and throw it out there, there's the addressing of that. So we're addressing and assessing all the time, all these different things that we have on our plate. And the best place to start is literally for your podcast, for anybody who's listening. Just write down all of the things that you personally are accountable for. And if you're accountable for every little single thing, then what you want to do is you want to start looking at that list and you want to start making a little list of what you love on that list and what you don't love on that list. That's the best place to start, especially for that solo podcaster that's doing it all themselves. They're marketing the stuff, they're clipping the stuff together, they're putting the video content together, running it through whatever AIs you have. Because, when you look at that kind of stuff, you can outsource to a company, you can outsource to an AI to do certain pieces, right? There's Otter, there's ChatGPT that can help you with show notes and all this kind of different stuff. So you don't always have to outsource when we get into the align it and assign it piece of the 4As. You don't always have to outsource to a company. It just depends on a lot of different things that are uniquely yours. And that's sort of like budget, audience, all these different things that we're going to look at from the podcaster scale. And so we assess and then we address and we look at those kind of things and then we align it. And when we align it, we're saying, okay, like I said, now I'm putting another filter on it and aligning it is if I align it into, for example, I have a few different businesses. So could I align the marketing? So for example, I have several different businesses and we have a lot of different people involved in those businesses. So I have people that work on marketing for my shoe business, but for posting different content and things like that, they can be posting different content for this business because it's the same sort of type of job that they're doing. So I can align that within my accountability chart within the people that I have to actually do that piece of the puzzle instead of me doing that piece of the puzzle as my podcast with my podcast hat on when I already have people in place, or whether we use an outsource partner like your company or any other sort of marketing company that's going to do this piece of the puzzle for you. We're aligning what it is that we don't want to do and putting it into place so that we can assign the accountability, which is the last piece, right? So we've assessed it and addressed it, all gone through all these different things that need to happen. We've aligned it either within our internal frameworks of who we have available, and who we have could also be, like I said, automations and different things like that are going to help us through the piece of the puzzle. And then we're going to assign accountability. So even if I was assigning accountability to, ChatGPT for show notes, for example, and I'm going to finish off the rest of the stuff, then basically that piece of the puzzle's assigned to that facility, or if I'm going to assign to a copywriter to do that, that's fine as well. But all of these things need to go through some thinking procedure for you to actually assign accountability, because the ultimate goal when you assign accountability is that you want to relieve yourself of the time that it takes, the frustration that it takes, all of the decision making that it takes to get through and overwhelm you. And so you're not going to pod fade, right? You're going to carry on because you're doing the things that you truly love to do. And let's face it, Adam, most of podcasters, we get into podcasts because we like to talk, not because we like to do all that other stuff.
Right. Oh, geez, I can agree with you so easily. Got a question that came up. You've got multiple companies. One of them is a shoe company. Yeah. You've got some roles that happen. And you mentioned something that kind of made me think, and I don't know if the listener caught it, but maybe. and ended up, what I think I heard was maybe social media. I think it was a she, but you got social media, you got somebody handling it.
Yeah.
In one company. How does it work, or how should it work, or what do you know about how it can work by having somebody who's hired under one company doing work for a different company? Does she have to have two W-2s? Does one company pay the other company? Like, what happens there? Just out of curiosity, if you have multiple companies.
Well, first of all, I'm in Canada, so we don't have W-2s.
Very fair. I heard you're like and you've got that Canadian accent.
But
I should have
ultimately,
thought.
If they're both your company, and which in my case, that's the case, it really doesn't matter to me. It comes out of the same pocket anyway. We do physically have two separate corporations, but I could take one of the companies and bill the other company for the time. I don't get that minute because ultimately it's all me anyway. And, in that particular, the person that does that works for both of my companies. And, sometimes I bill out over there and sometimes I bill it over there. It all kind of works in the wash. And at the end of the day, it's all one pot. But if you need it to be separate, it's not that hard. There are automations that allow you to book your time, right? And you're booking your time and you're just billing time. So if they're spending 4 hours doing marketing for one business, and you could do this too if you have two different podcasts that you look after, and you can split your time. And there's different apps that you can have that will track your time either on screen, or you can literally have a time tracker down on your desk in front of you so that you're splitting and separating that sort of stuff. So to me, that's getting too down into the weeds. And I don't like to get too down into the weeds in this. There's enough stuff to get down in the weeds in.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree or argue necessarily, but I will share like a quick story of somebody in one of my masterminds. So I've been part of different masterminds for a long time. And one of them, probably a little over 5 years, business mastermind. Mm-hmm. We meet a few times a year in person and do a 2-day thing.
Yep.
One of the people in the mastermind, of course, I'm not going to name names or specific businesses, but one of the people in the mastermind had 19 different businesses, and they were all similar. They were all kind of like within the same thing. So some of them were in real estate. So for example, some of the businesses owned certain types of rentals in certain areas that did certain things. Other businesses were coaching and mentoring. Other businesses were speaking. Other businesses were their own fix and flips, or their own rentals, or their own title company, and their own lending company. And of course, I haven't mentioned 19, but he had 19. Yeah. So he had all of these things, and they were kind of all involved. And one of the things that he wanted to do, or he wanted to achieve, was to be able to kind of relax, because he was working a lot of hours, more than he wanted to. Yeah. And in that mastermind, we talk about a life vision, like living the life, spending the time doing what you want with your kids or travel or whatever it is, your health. And it was being very challenging for him. And he had a hard time letting go of some of the businesses. This is just part of it, is I want to let go of some of the businesses. And they sat down with the coach and some accountants. Mm-hmm. And they tried to find out which businesses were successful and which were not. And it was interesting because they did a similar thing. It's way easier with two businesses. Yep. In this case, with 19, it just got crazy. And he goes, well, this business is making money. But then when they dug into it, there was all of these exchanges of people overlapping. And takeaway can be, and this is what I do in my business, because I have a couple as well. Yeah. A takeaway can be, if this person's working for this other company, then we need her to bill the other company. So for example, let's just say I've got company 1 and I've got company 2, and she usually works in company 1. Hey, I need you to post this thing in social. Yeah. So company 2 basically just, company 1 charges company 2, who knows, who cares? $20, $50, $100, $200. And she does the task. And then that company has its expenses and the other one has its revenue. I think that could be one, but I was very curious to hear, is she getting paid from both, or how it was working, just to understand. Yeah. Anyway, so the long of the story, real quick, Pete, is that they found out that 2 of his 19 companies were making really good money. 5 of his 19 companies were losing a stupid amount of money. And the rest were just basically close to breaking even. So he shut down most of them and ended up focusing on the 2 plus a couple others. And it made a world of difference for him once he understood.
I love that. And we can frame that in any, like most podcasters are business owners as well. Like a lot of them are, because that's the area that I live in. And so if we reframe that back into our shoe stores, for example, we can do the same sort of thing with regards to departments within our shoe store. We have X amount of departments in the shoe store. And several years ago, we cut out kids' shoes for that very reason. It's like, we've got this line of kids' shoes, and yes, it does bring in some revenue, but digging down deeper into the analytics of it, it didn't make any money. It wasn't worth it. So you're taking it back out and reframing. And so whether it's a person, whether it's a product, I have this other framework called the 5 Ps that I think we hit on in our last one.
Yeah.
And it's really just the idea of understanding your promise, aligning your products, your process, and your people to it so you can have the right amount of profit. And when you're not experiencing the right amount of profit, or in the case of a podcaster, maybe not experiencing enough leads or whatever it is else that you're looking at getting at, then you got to go back to the drawing board and look at some of this stuff. And if that means splitting and separating so that you truly understand where people are spending their time, then that's good too. Because here's the other thing. That person, I might be able to find somebody who's doing the job better at even a lesser price than that person. And her time might be better spent somewhere else. So you've got to start looking at that kind of stuff too, down the road, as whether one of the things is taking up more time than the other. All of those things are part of being an efficient boss and working through the things that you want out of it and knowing your future. You kind of hit with that mastermind, because I do a lot of future forecasting with my clients as well. Knowing what it is that you want out of your future is the biggest piece of aligning and assigning accountability. And that's, part of this other framework that we hit on a little bit before hitting record, which is the CPA. And in order to be a good leader, you need to communicate, you need to have awesome process in place, and you need to have the right accountability in place. And if you're communicating the wrong thing, man, everything is wrong.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a random question, and it is possible, maybe not probable, it is possible that it's actually really valuable to the listener, but it just depends on what you say, what the answer is here. I'm really curious how kids' shoes are less profitable than other shoes, because, like, for example, I have a handful of shoes and I wear a different pair every day for no reason except for my track teacher once told me it was better for your feet to give a shoe
them out
or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I have a handful of shoes. I rarely buy them for me, but I'm always buying shoes for my kids because they grow so fast. So when you said that the kid shoes like made less, I thought to myself, how is that even possible? Like, I'm going bankrupt because of my kids' shoes. And I've had the same shoes for me, some of them for, 12 years maybe.
Well, first of all, Adam, I'm not talking to a lady right now.
Okay. All right. Well, you don't know that. You don't know that, Pete. I close to guarantee, and all of the ladies that I've dated in the past that have seen my shoes also agree, because it's insane. I have quite a bit more than most ladies. So we should at least...
That's unusual.
You know what? Should we strike that from the podcast? People are going to be like, he's so weird. Why does he do that?
It's all good, man. And
anyway, so I'm not a lady, but lady shoes are expensive. Let's get back into why are kids' shoes not as good of a moneymaker as adults' shoes?
So ultimately, they could be if you have that clientele. And for us, there's a variety of different reasons. One, we have a box, and that box is called Shoetopia. And I can only fit so much stuff in that box, and it's always full. So when I start looking down at the metrics of it and saying this aisle is full of kids' shoes, and a box of kids' shoes is on average, $60, but that same space could be held by a $120 shoe that's going to be sold to a woman, I'm going to make more money in that retail space per square foot if I move it into women's shoes. Secondarily, with our markets, we were finding that pretty much parents wouldn't buy any kids' shoes unless they were on sale. When kids' shoes go on sale, we don't make any money. So, from that perspective, I'm using a whole bunch of square footage of my store to stock kids' shoes, in which we're always selling. And we sold lots of them, but we sold them on sale, which means at a lower margin, and we don't make money. So we need to hit a certain amount of margin in order to make the store work. And it wasn't that department. So whether you're looking at all of this stuff and assessing and addressing it, then we're going to align some other stuff into that aisle and assign accountability and say, this is now a women's aisle because we sell 80% of our store is women's shoes and 20% are guys. And that's just where it lies. So that's understanding your market, or in podcast terms, understanding your listener. And, it's an important piece.
I want to do this. I want to move to figuring out, assess, address, align, assign. But I'd want to do it kind of in a fun way.
Yeah.
I want to play the role of one of my clients.
Yep.
And I want you to just play the role of you, a coach, somebody who's going to serve.
That's right.
And so you make sure that I can assess, address, align, and assign, offloading my marketing in a second after these messages. We'll be right back. Hey, my friend, as you know, this episode is sponsored by my company, growyourshow.com. We want you to be able to have the best tools at your disposal without costing you a whole arm and a leg. So right now you can get a free list of vetted equipment that like mics, mixers, webcams, sound treatment, editing software, everything that you need. I created the whole PDF with direct purchase links just to save you time and money, to help it be more convenient for you. So this free PDF will help you skip all the guesswork. If it's on there, it's vetted and approved by yours truly. And if it's not on there, it's probably not worth the money. So go ahead and get yours at growyourshow.com/PDF. Let's get back into the show. We're back with Pete Mohr. And as you heard before, he was in episode 223. So if you'd like to get more value from this guy, just go to episode 223. We'll make sure that's linked in the show notes. Today, we're talking about a lot of things, but one of them is accountability and finding a way to basically offload certain things if they're needed. A takeaway that we got before is you might not want to offload every single thing. Some of the things you're the best at, some of the things they're just way so fun for you. And so some of those things you're just going to keep, and that's fine. But let's do a quick role play. I'm the coach, E, and Pete is the coach, which he does actually also in real life. So I think this is going to go great. So I'm going to pretend like I'm you, the listener, or you, one of my clients, and I'm considering doing more marketing. Pete, help me out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Adam, how much time are you spending on a weekly basis marketing your podcast?
Because back in the day, I spent quite a bit of time marketing my podcast. So honestly, I spend in my business around 12 hours a day. And 2 or 3 of that on average is editing the podcast. Half of it is my regular work. And then probably something like 40%. So I'm going to say I probably am marketing my podcast 5 hours a day.
You're marketing your podcast 5 hours a day. So would you like your time back?
Hell yes.
So step 1, I want my time back.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things, what would you sooner do with 5 hours a day, Adam?
I would go to the gym.
Yep.
Go on a walk. I would take a lunch break and enjoy the sun. Or if it's cold, then I would enjoy that too. I could have a little bit of downtime. I could connect with my lover. I could be a better dad. And I could move it toward more things that are revenue generating. 5 hours is a lot of time. Yeah. That's 25 hours a week.
Yeah. Times 52 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a serious amount of time. And are you making money marketing, using that actual time? Is that the best time spent where you're making money? Because when you flip the switch from doing the marketing as opposed to aligning and assigning it to somebody else to actually taking that time and recapturing some of that into your profit generating piece of your business, do you think that's a relative trade? Is your time better spent marketing, or is it maybe better spent coaching or doing whatever it is that you do in your business to make money and actually make that till ring?
No, I would say that when you ask, do I make money marketing? The answer is yes and no. Yeah. Because when marketing is done, we're more likely to make money. Mm-hmm. And so the marketing's an incredibly important piece.
Yes.
But no, it in it of itself is not the revenue generator. Right. And I think to answer your question, behind the question, it's I think that I'm more well suited to focusing on the business rather than to like have so many things going on.
Unless marketing is your superpower, because I like to move people into their superpower as soon as I can, as quickly as I can. And when you're working in your, what I call your love it zone, I have this framework called love it or leave it. When you're working in your love it zone, you're probably the best for your business. You're doing what you truly love to do. You're the best for your clients and you're making the most money. So your sort of philosophy is if you're a marketing company and you are the best, then that's one thing. But if you're not, then you might want to find somebody who is going to be in that position and going to do that to free you up of the frustration, especially if you don't like to market, to free you up of that specific job so that you can get into your love it zone, do more of what you truly love to do and leave it. I mean, that's why there are professionals, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And
so if I'm going to not do it, how do I figure out how to do the other A's to kind of like
So
not do it?
The first thing is assess it. And is this something that I am truly the best at? Right? And if you're not, then you want to address it. Well, what areas of it am I good at? What areas of it am I not good at? Because if you're either going to align and assign the whole piece that's called marketing, or you're going to align and assign bits and pieces and outsource bits and pieces, right? And so if you want to carve off 3 hours and say, I don't mind, getting the production of the stuff ready and put together because that I am good at that and I like doing that piece, but I don't want to do any of the posting and I don't want to look after all of that stuff. So we might want to carve off 2 hours of those 5 hours, or you may want to carve off all 5. And that's a decision that you need to make in your sort of position in addressing this particular piece of the puzzle, right? And then
so with the marketing, for me, the only piece in this theoretical thing that's actually close to true in the past, in the marketing piece, Pete, I am happy to keep on Facebook groups.
Yep.
Where I'm connecting with other people in my industry.
Yep.
That part's fun for me. That part I don't really need to offload. And I could probably do that in 20 minutes to maybe an hour in a day. And I could offload 4.5 hours. So now what? Well,
I mean, now you've just put the framework in your head that I'm going to get, give or take, 4 hours times 5, 20 hours times 50, 1,000 hours back this year. I mean, when you start magnifying some of this stuff,
why do I feel so good right now?
I mean, it's really incredible, right? And you're going to move into your love it zone, which is I like to connect with people. I want to have those conversations. I don't want to put together the files and the figures and put it up into whatever distribution lists we have and all this other stuff. But you know what? There are people out there that truly love that stuff. They're checkbox people. You can hear them woohooing in the background when they finish completing those checklists of stuff that people like you and I hate doing, right? And they're like, woohoo, I just finished. I got them all done for next week. And it's like, they feel excited about that. And we're like, oh my God, that was painful, right? So this idea around that is interesting because what you truly love to do is not maybe what they love to do. And what they truly love to do is not necessarily what you love to do. So the next step is aligning on your accountability chart, whether you have somebody within your own networks that can do that, whether they're, in your own businesses or maybe somebody that that can do that. And if you don't, then you got to go out looking for companies like you. Like if we're talking about podcasting here, it's like you need to find people that can do this for you, that have that expertise, and you're going to pay a professional to do it. And by paying the professional to do it, it's going to actually save you money.
Okay, cool. Well, let me ask you this. So it's actually going to save me money. So let me put myself in somebody's shoes who's looking at my company.
Yeah.
So you're telling me it's going to save me money, but the price point for the marketing with Adam's company is really high. It's higher than I would have expected. It feels scary.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, from your side of things, and let's take you sort of out of being the client here and into your company. I mean, some of the things that you could do in your company to offset that is give them some sort of guarantees or give them a little bit of free trial or some of these sort of things. And those kind of things ease some of the pain to get somebody who's uncomfortable in. And I don't know what your particular program.
Well, so my attorney doesn't like that word guarantee, but we do make a promise. If we don't achieve a certain thing, you don't pay.
Exactly.
In a way, I'm kind of getting from you that this is real, and I actually feel like I'm being coached now, like literally. So I'm thinking that we don't spend enough real estate on our website, and I don't spend enough time on a discovery call explaining that if this doesn't achieve a certain thing, you don't pay. We know that this is going to happen. I never really share that. I never really say that. I rarely ever share that or say that. And it is on the website, but it's like, it's so small. It's just part of a thing. But I think maybe we should open it up a bit more.
Well, when you had your client hat on 2 minutes ago, that was the first thing you said.
Yeah, that's because I've heard people say things like that about us and other companies too.
For sure.
So, cool.
So basically, you're overcoming their fear before they even begin with you. And it's like, hey, listen, if this is that easy, why wouldn't I use Adam's company to do my marketing? Or at least try.
Go ahead.
I've got this framework that I can save 1,000 hours, right?
So how do I assign it? Put me back into the place where I am the potential client of a company that does this editing. What makes me decide to give that stuff to him?
Yeah. So when you're aligning it, in the aligning phase, you're going to look for companies or people that are going to be able, or applications, depending on what pieces of the puzzle you're trying to offload. And you're going to look for alternatives. And, you come up with your 3 alternatives like most people do, and have your conversations or research whatever you need to research, test and try. And then you're going to, set your process in place and make sure that the process can be done the way you want it done. You still own the podcast, you still own the business, whatever the case is. So there are certain things that you want done that are in the framework of what you're promising your listeners. So you want to make sure that that's going to be capable and available and done the way you need it done. And then after that, you're assigning accountability. And you're basically that last piece, right? We've gone through all these things, the reasons why we want to make the move, the reason why we want to offload the marketing. I'm going to get 1,000 hours back. I want 1 or 2 big pieces of why I want to make this decision. 1,000 hours, that's worth to me. What's that worth to you? I can go on a family vacation. I don't have to worry about doing all this stuff when I'm on vacation next week. I don't have to worry about spending 2 or 3 hours a day when I'm with my family because the stuff needs to get done because I still got an episode coming out. Maybe the episode's recorded, but I don't have all this other stuff. Like, think about the freedoms that it will provide you when you go back and you overlay the freedoms and you're taking away the frustrations of using a professional to do some of these pieces of the puzzle for you so that you can get to the end goal, which is, hey, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm going to free up 1,000 hours. And even if I'm paying somebody, whatever, $500, but in that hour or whatever the case is, I can earn 1,000. Why would I not pay somebody $500 if I can earn 1,000 in that same time frame? So you start looking at the cost and the figures of that as well. And, and the cost of your time, your personal time back. If you're feeling frustrated, overworked, overwhelmed, and feeling as though you are ready to press stop and finish with the whole podcasting thing, before you do, these are the things you need to look at. Is there somebody else that can tackle the parts of this that I really just don't want to do? And move it, assign that accountability so that you can do the stuff that you truly want to do. And then life is good.
A couple quick things as we wrap up. First is, I heard a stat, and I'm dyslexic, so I don't remember which way it was. It was either 97.9% or 99.7%. Either way, pretty close to 100% of successful business owners use paid marketing.
Yeah.
And I am thinking about that as you're talking about getting the time back and everything. I'm also thinking that me as a person in this scenario, where I'm working 5 hours a week to do the marketing, it's not because it's only 5 hours that's needed. It's because as much marketing as possible is needed. If you really want something to grow, if you want your podcast to grow, if you want your business to grow, if you want your consulting to grow, marketing is one of the most important things. And in this case, in this scenario, I'm the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do much more than 5 hours, but I don't have the capacity. Once I've done my job, my main job, once I've done, the podcasting, once I've edited podcasts in this scenario, I only have brain power to go 5 more hours, but I wish that I could do, 100 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that's like another one of the benefits is you can join let's just say 99%. I don't remember if it was 97.9 or 99.7, but of successful people, they always use paid marketing. And I can do that and I can be more successful than I am now and work less because I don't have to pay someone to just do 5 hours. I can pay them to do 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or 200 hours. I'll say a couple things. I learned that the movie, I think, was called Avatar. I don't remember the exact budget, but the budget to create the movie with all the AI or CG or whatever, let's pretend it's 800 million. I don't remember if that's the real number. Yeah. But whatever it was, the exact same number, another 800 million, was just to market it, just to build the trailer and put the trailer in front of people. And you think about that, and we've got business owners that think, oh, I'll worry about marketing like when I start making money. And then they never make money. They fail and they're like, that sucks. Business sucks. But they never did what Avatar did. They never spent the same amount of budget to market as they did for everything else. And so I like that. It frees me up to be able to do more business, to be able to have my time back to 1,000 hours and all of that. So good stuff. Pete, what other takeaway should the listener take today?
I think the big thing here, Adam, as we look at whether, getting into that CPA stuff, communicating what it is, if you're going to start outsourcing some of this stuff through the 4As and, you've got a thinking tool now. Okay. And you've got a thinking tool that you can lay out these different things with in the 4As. Just make a sheet, put 4 boxes on it and go at it, whatever process you want to do. But the big thing here is that if you're not going to communicate what you want, best case and worst case scenario, worst case scenario of what my marketing might do for me and understand what that marketing, we're going to use the marketing framework. Best case scenario, this is what I'm looking for. Worst case scenario, this is what might happen. If you don't really understand what the expectations are, then you're going into the abyss. And that's not a place to live. So really lay this stuff out in what it is that you want to unload off of your plate and think about what the best case and the worst case scenarios for getting your time back, getting more money, getting, better relationships, growing your business, all the different things and the reasons why you're podcasting here today. And once you do that, then it's really about, okay, if I truly love doing this, keep it, own it, make it your accountability. And if you don't truly love it, then you want to start putting those pieces out there so that in the ether, so that somebody is going to help you find somebody, or that you're going to start doing the work. You're going to start finding who can help you do this sort of stuff. Because honestly, if you're not working at the top, if you can pay somebody $20 an hour to do something instead of you do it when you make $40 an hour, why would you not do that? And that's where most people get lost in the weeds. They just think they need to do everything. But there are a lot of people out there that are better than you at doing these things and will do it for less money. Why would you not make that trade every time? It's just bad business not to make that trade.
Yeah, I love it. Appreciate you, Pete. Thanks for coming back again. He was on 223. You can check that out. Links in the show notes. Additionally, his podcast, the link is down in the show notes. His business, you want to connect with him on social, his website, his podcast called Business Owner Breakthrough.
Yes, sir.
You just scroll down and click. That'll be the easy way to do it. Furthermore, the next episode is going to be a shorter episode. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to just go ahead and check out this next episode because I pour right into you. I give you some stuff that I know you need as a podcaster. I will see you there. By the way, one way to ensure that you don't miss out on great content that we're producing on a regular basis is to make sure you're subscribed to the show. You need to be subscribed or following the Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to it in order not to miss all of that. And before I let you go, I need to mention, because a lot of people are asking, do you help? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. My company actually does it. It's called Grow Your Show. And you can find that at growyourshow.com. Our client clients, they call us the easy button for podcaster because they simply have to record their episode. And they know that every single thing else is done for them. We sweat the hard stuff so you can be the star of your show. And if you would like help to make sure that we're editing and publishing and promoting and doing your social media, it's all in one place. And I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go to growyourshow.com and check us out. And by the way, I'll see you on the next episode.